Hello and welcome to the Fit News Podcast. I am your host, Jen Shaver, and joining me today is Delaine Fowler, Doctor of Physical Therapy. She is a workplace injury prevention expert, a keynote speaker, a certified high-performance coach. Delaine joins me today to chat injury prevention as we age, about some everyday things that we might be doing that could be causing our pain, and she will also debunk the myth that growing older means we should expect and accept daily pain. And I believe we might even get to talking about pickleball, which is also big. Delaine, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. I appreciate your time.
Awesome, Jen. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Of course. Let's get right into it because injury prevention as we age is so important because we know that, as we age, our risk of injury goes up because of muscle loss and difficulties with balance and so on.
Yes. Yep. And you hit the nail on the head right off the bat. Muscle, maintaining muscle mass is critical to doing it. So to staying well and to keep those muscles and tendons pliable. And so we really do need to have a mind on where does my fitness journey fit in as I age. Right. And even if you've never been active before, it's not too late. You can start training, muscles and muscle tissue turns over. Those cells are constantly multiplying. And, you have so many cells that your eyes are redone every 6 days or something like that. You have brand new cells all over your eyes. So we can't think of, well, now my muscles are shrinking, so why does it matter? It matters a lot. So that's really the key to, or one of the keys is to maintain that muscle mass.
Right. And I love that you say, why does it even matter now? Right. Well, I haven't done anything thus far. Yeah. It's just going to happen. I might as well just give up. Right. And that's not the case at all, like you said.
Yeah. And, I think it's super important that as we think about, okay, what does that look like for me? Mm-hmm. You'll have a lot of people who have that athlete mindset and they'll say, oh, I did this and this and this in high school, or I was a collegiate athlete. Like I was a collegiate athlete. Mm-hmm. And when you get to where you're not competing on the larger scale, you're kind of competing with yourself to say how well I'm doing and how well am I keeping up with my daily life and what I want to do and what I see myself doing in 20 years. Right. So I project what I want now, 20 years from now, when my kids are out of my house and all those things. And I'm what do I want to be able to do then? Right. And who do I want to emulate in my life? And, when you're younger, you want to emulate a professional athlete, but when you're older, I think I have really good friends who are very fit into their 80s.
Yeah.
And they're still climbing trees and doing crazy things like that in their 80s. And I'm that's my avatar.
Right.
So
I love that. And, like you said, it's about looking into the future and what we foresee about how do we want that to be. And oftentimes that's difficult, because we're in the here and now, we're so busy. But if we don't take a minute to think about that, then we can find ourselves in a world of hurt, both figuratively, right, and non-figuratively,
Yeah, totally. And I think that people make it a lot harder than they have to. Oh, well, I need to go to the gym. You don't have to go to the gym. Right. You can find ways, you can find online fitness coaches to help you out if you don't know where to start. You can just decide on a walking program. You can pick up heavy things at home, right? People get Amazon delivered all the time. Leave one of those boxes untouched and lift those boxes. Yep. So all of those things can be additive throughout our day to maintain muscle mass. It doesn't have to be well, I got to go to the gym and I got to learn how to squat and I got to put on a cute outfit. You don't have to do any of that. Right. So I don't like the thought of that fitness can't be every day. Our functional movements and how we move naturally is a workout in itself. We just need to apply it like that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just think about certain things that we do. Like you said, squatting, well, we get in and out of a chair, right? Or an overhead press. If we were grabbing something, out of the cupboard, that's right. We have to be able to do those things. And the best way to continue to do them is to obviously practice, right? Practice makes Perfect.
Yeah, that's right. Practice makes progress for sure.
Right.
And so as a PT in my clinic, and when I was building my clinic, I did home health to make ends meet. And but the rule still applies whether you're in my office or at your house, and it's called the no plopping rule. None of my patients were allowed to plop. They're not allowed just to sit down and let gravity take them down.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, like there's no plopping. I'll literally make somebody stand up. And I'm like, no, you got to do that again. So there's no plopping in my office.
Yeah.
Because it's one more opportunity to practice.
Right.
When we do desk setups for our industries, if we're out in the industry and out in offices and people have a sitting workspace, I say like one of the best things you could do every day is purposefully get up and purposefully sit down, not just like sit down and
right.
layer, So those, all those little opportunities for movement and mobility and strength, they're built into our day. We just need to recognize them and do all that. There's a great story. It's a great research on paper about house cleaning employees within one of the big chains. Okay. And they took these housekeeping employees, half of them, they said, this is how you clean a room. The other half, they said, this is how you clean a room. And you're going to burn this many calories doing this workout, cleaning this room every day. Well, because this group got the education of this is fitness, they were leaner, they were stronger, and they were more efficient at their jobs.
Wow.
This group that was just trained how to do the job. Because they had the knowledge of, oh, this is working out. So if I applied it like that, if instead of making the bed and just bending over and making the bed, I decided to squat down because that helps me build strength.
Right.
Then, so we can think about that in our everyday lives. Even somebody with a sitting workspace. Yeah. You can say, okay, I'm going to purposefully stand up and sit down. I'm going to create a standing workspace where I can be mobile and stretch my hamstrings out every once in a while. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And, a few things that I want to chat about that you said. Let's talk first about the purposeful sitting, because that right there, somebody hears that and wow, look at this. I can now add, like, they might have not have ever thought of that, right? But now they have a way that one small change, right? Mm-hmm. And if we just start with that one small change, now they have a way that they can add this, because darn well that you're getting up and down how many times a day. Right. So if you just add that one small change, that purposeful sitting, and that's the only change you make this week, imagine a month from now how different you would feel. Totally. And you didn't take extra time out of your day, right? You didn't have to rearrange your schedule. You didn't have to go, like you said, get the cute workout outfit on. All you had to do was take a second to change your mindset about it. A simple mindset shift, right? Perspective on what you're doing. Like the people, as you said in the study.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything different about the jobs that those people did.
Yeah. It's amazing. And then the other thing, well, we kind of covered it there, was the perspective or the mindset, and it's just about changing our mindset, and the mindset of, as we discussed earlier, about having to go to the gym or having to do the workout for a certain amount of time, or whatever it is we perceive a quote unquote workout to be. If we can just start with the purposeful sitting, that, I hope that everyone who listens to this, if they take one thing away, I hope that's it. I hope that's one of the things that they take away from this episode. And that from this day forward, that's how they attack the chair that they sit down on.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And with our clientele that might be debilitated, like our goal for them is, at first they're going to be putting their hands down to help themselves. And then we hope, they might even have a pillow on the seat because they can't get all the way down. Right. But our goal in the PT clinic, when we're at that point, is by the time you leave, you're not going to need to use your hands to get up and down. And for all of us people that aren't debilitated, if we're having to reach back and guide ourselves into a chair, that practice is going to you know, within just a couple weeks, like you said, you're going to be able to get up and down without using your hands.
Right.
It's like a whole new world. It really is a whole new world. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk a little. So those are, I mean, that right there is an injury prevention tool, the purposeful sitting.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
No doubt. Yes. Yeah. Anybody who can functionally squat is going to be better off than somebody who can't.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about some more injury prevention ideas.
Yes, absolutely. You know, we live in a state of dehydration. I'm sure that you've talked to lots of people about hydration and dehydration, but your muscles, your brain, your tissues, your connective tissues, you're made up of 70% water. Mm-hmm. So you need to make sure that having good hydration habits, knowing how to drink water, and not just consuming things that make you go to the bathroom all the time, like coffee and soda and all those awesome things. You know, we have to have good hydration. Eating foods that are hydrating, is super important. That will kind of stick with you. And people, especially as we age, sometimes we're like, well, I'm not going to drink that water before I go to bed, because then I'm going to have to get up in the middle of the night and go to the bathroom. But maybe it's about retraining. Right. So we take care of people with pelvic floor issues in the clinic. And so these are people that go to the bathroom quite often, and they train themselves into having to go to the bathroom. So they're very fearful of drinking water, and then they're dehydrated.
And as you age, it's very dangerous too. Dehydration takes on a whole new level of being dangerous as you age.
That's right. So I think hydration is a key to a lot of things. And then, and they kind of go hand in hand. The stronger, like if you're able to squat, like we were just talking about squat, a good squat engages your pelvic floor, which helps you to be, not have to go run into the bathroom every time you have the urge. But then also it helps you understand that you do have control of that stuff. But staying hydrated, I think, is key to injury prevention. It's that you have to have water to make all those tissues run the right way.
Right. And again, here is something that is super simple, right? It's water. It's all around us. Right. Yeah. So it's not, some fancy thing that I have to order off of Amazon, or, some crazy tool comes out of the faucet and there you go.
That's right. So, and we all need it, and we all have to have it.
Right.
It's one of the things you can go without food for a really long time, but you can't go without water for just a few days.
Yeah.
So that's important. And so I always encourage everyone to drink the right amount of water for them. And so the next thing is mobility. To understand that, I kind of joke with my patients. I probably shouldn't, but or even my friends, like they're like, "Oh my gosh, my arm's killing me. I must be getting old." And I say, "Well, is the other one hurting?" And they say, "No." And I'm like, "Well, they're the same age." so let's figure out why that shoulder is hurting, because it's obviously not your age. And people don't think about that. They're like, "Oh, well, they like to go like 20 years ago, I, was playing football and, or I did this, or, I like to blame my back problems on my last baby, even though he's amazing, doesn't deserve it, So like I always say, like, being active is the best thing to do. Having good mobility habits, you can add up your time that you spend. I'm not much of a TV watcher, but I do at night to hang out with my kids and my husband. They like to watch, whatever they want to watch on TV. Last night was Monday Night Football, so we watched that.
Sorry about that.
Panthers.
Oh, that's okay. My Browns lost too. So.
Yeah. But I do it to spend time with my kids, but I also take time to sit down on the ground and stretch. We were watching Quarterbacks. It's a series on Netflix.
Oh yeah.
And if you've watched it, you see how the quarterbacks treat their bodies and how the people they utilize to recover between training sessions. And so now my kids, since I'm a physical therapist, think I am their sports and conditioning coach, and just out there. So I stretch them at night. Even my 4-year-old which is
I love
hysterical.
it.
But we get down on the ground and stretch and do all sorts of stuff while instead of sitting, we're stretching.
Right. Right.
So that's it. I think it's good to think like, I'm sitting here for 5 minutes. Why don't I stretch?
Right. And that's such a great, again, here is another habit to add into your day that we're not carving out extra time, right? We've already got the time. The time is already there.
Yeah.
We're just utilizing it in a smarter way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, if you're investing in yourself versus anything we're consuming in the media these days, I think that's better for you. That's better for your mental health. People, like, we've somehow dissociated brains and bodies. Like, we talk about people's brains and then we talk about their bodies, but in truth, your brain and your body drive each other, both directions. They've talked about people being hangry. Why are you hangry? Because your stomach's empty. And so now your brain's saying, oh, I do want those carbs, or whatever.
Right.
So it goes both ways.
Yeah.
And then we're just so magically made that we can tell our brain, like, let's have some willpower today, or let's be lazy today, or whatever. And we can do it because we have this amazing brain. Mm-hmm. We can tell ourselves we don't feel well, or we can tell ourselves we feel good.
Yeah.
But our body can also send signals to our brain to say, how are we doing today?
Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about, maybe some everyday things that we might be doing that are causing us pain.
Sure. Oh my gosh. So, I'm not a huge fan of sitting for long periods of time. Sitting has its place, but I think we were built to move. Like we were born to move. Right. In utero, we wait for that little baby to start rolling around in us, right? That movement.
Yeah.
Cells vibrate. They have a vibrational energy to them. That's how they do their thing. And even they've taken astronauts, and during sleep, they think, well, they're up in space and they're, no gravity. They're not going to move. They move all the time. Wow. And I think that for us to say, okay, well, I'm going to sit down here and I'm going to read a book, or I'm going to sit down here and do work on this computer like this, hunched down, like we all do at our computers. I think that's one thing that if we could get people to start standing a little bit more in their day, and not just standing, because standing's not awesome for us either, but giving yourself the ability to move in standing. So with my mobile workspace, like I have a desk and a computer, and I have a footstool underneath and a yoga mat and a block in the desk, so I can constantly be shifting and moving around throughout my day. Yeah. I'm not just standing, I'm not just sitting. Mm-hmm. When I can now stand at my desk all day and work, it's not a problem. It took me about 2 months to really condition to it. Yeah. And how I knew I was conditioning was like about 2 or 3 o'clock, I'd be like, well, it started out like noon. By noon, I was like, I've got to sit down. I cannot think. Yes. Yes. I've noticed that. Yeah. When you're standing a lot. And then it was like 3 o'clock, and now I can stand all day. Yeah. It doesn't matter. And I can still think, which is good. Yeah. But that's how I realized I was conditioning myself to stand. So I think sitting a little less in our lives is better. Moving around a little more. Right. Is better. I think if we stay inside too much, that can be a problem. If we can get outside, and I'm probably guilty of this more than I think I should be, with my busy work life. But if you can find a way to get yourself outside on a break during work, or just take 5 minutes. My husband used to take pretend smoke breaks. He didn't smoke at work, but he would go outside for 5 minutes. Yeah. To get a sunshine break. Right. Right. Yeah. And just kind of clear his air. Which, if you think about it, that's so much healthier and needed. Right. For everyone. That they should just be almost built in. Right. Because it's just improving your health. Right. Yeah, I jokingly say I send my kids to private school in our community, and the reason I do that, and I used to joke about it, but now I'm like really serious, is that they move more at that school than in our standardized education system, and so it makes me happy to know, like, my kids get recess, they go outside during class, they have PE, they have all these extra breaks, they have all these things built in to give their brains a break and to give their bodies a chance to move, to process all that stuff they've been consuming in class. Right. So I think it's important.
It's so important, especially for kids. And it's, you know, you read so much about, my kids are older now, they're in college, but I have one still in high school, but you read so much about recess being cut or the time being shortened. Yeah. And it's just, you know, as a former teacher, I just think, oh my gosh, why are they doing that? Those kids need to move. That's what helps, you know, the brain to reset, if you will, and be ready to continue to learn and to process the information.
And we talk about kids with ADD all the time. And it's just now that we're talking about adults with ADD.
Right.
It's a more normal thing. Definitely more normal than when I was in school, for sure.
Right.
But adults, regardless of whether I have ADD or not, need to get some movement, need to get outside.
Yeah.
But for kids with all that energy, all that growing energy, I was a student in PT school, and I did a volunteer project in a third grade.
Oh.
And we were like rotating, the classrooms were rotating.
Yeah.
And this one teacher popped her head in the door and she's like, you're going to have to give us 5 minutes. Well, apparently her class was not very good in the class before. So she sent them outside to run around the baseball field.
Yeah.
And come back, and they all came back like they're all like breathing. It was cold and they were breathing hard and they had their coats on. It was fantastic.
Right.
And I was like, yes, she gets it. Like she understands.
Yeah.
So moving enough throughout our day, making sure you're hydrated, giving a mobile workspace a chance.
Yeah.
You know, your mobility workspace a chance. Even if you think you can't, just building up a little bit, because certainly sitting is wearing you out, for sure, during the day. Right. So I think that's really important.
Right. Especially I think if you find that you are having hip, back pain, evaluate how much time are you really spending in a seated position. You know, your commute to and from work, if you have to, I mean, include all of that, and, you know, take into account all of that stuff, into how much time are you really spending in a seated. Yeah. Yeah. That's
right. It's a lot. And we just weren't made like that.
Right.
We just weren't made like that.
Yeah.
So those are definitely two major things that I like to say during our day. And you know, just being sedentary, not realizing. So when I was a student, I did a rotation through the hospital. I knew my journey was going to end up in outpatient orthopedics, mostly because I don't love wiping other people's butts. And when you're the physical therapist and you come get somebody up from a bed, usually the first thing we do is go to the bathroom. So, other than my children, you know, that's about all I'd like to do as far as wiping butts go. Yeah. Anyway, but, I would have the experience with my patients who had just had total knee replacements. I come in and say, all right, Miss Jones, like, we're going to start out today, and we're going to do 5 deep breaths. Okay. And we're going to do 5 overhead reaches with our arms. And like 90% of the time, the person would say, honey, it's my knee. Did you read my chart? And I'd say, yes, of course. Yes, I read your chart. But one of the main things that might keep you here is if you develop a blood clot. And so we're not going to do that. We're going to do some breathing. We're going to move your upper body just a little bit, and then we're going to get to your knee. And I promise we're going to work on that knee. You're not going to like it because you just had a total knee replacement, but we're going to do it. And then we're going to get you up. Yeah. So, but to hopefully provide that education that your upper body is important. Yeah. Mobility in your shoulders is very, very important, especially as you age, because that's how you do a lot of things. Right.
Right. Because God forbid you fall. It's not just your legs, strength in your legs that you need to get back up.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I think one of the most satisfying things I do is to train people who don't know how to get up and down off the floor, how to get up and down off the floor. Yeah. Because you know that they can take care of themselves, and that'll keep them in their house as they age. Yeah. 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 And it's so important. Yeah. And so we're back to squatting again. Yeah. You know, we're back to squatting and lunging. And
who knew, strength. Right?
Strength. Wow. So
goes back to no plopping, I guess, right?
Everything goes back to no plop.
Everything goes back to no plopping. Let's talk a little bit about, you know, pickleball is all of the rage now. You know, I see, you just see it all over. but that could also lead to some injuries that, uh-oh. So how can we prepare our bodies, or what are some injuries that could happen, that are most common, I guess I would say?
Sure. And, always a good warm up, no matter what sport you're playing, is important. I've been stressing that. Doesn't matter how old you are either.
Right.
My elementary and middle schoolers are, in my family, are running cross country right now. And the other day we had a thunderstorm right before we raced. So like the thunderstorm ran through, everybody was sitting in their cars. They got out of their cars. They didn't have time to warm up. Well, half of them threw up because they were like in their cars eating something.
Yeah.
And the other half got cramps. And I was like, this is why we warm up.
Yep.
Not eat. Like nobody in my car was allowed to eat because I didn't want to deal with kids throwing up, but let the other people throw up. Yeah. So, but I think a proper warm up, knowing what those pickleball motions are, that you're going to be lunging to sides, you're going to be going back and forth, you're going to be, raising overhead, you're going to be reaching a lot. Knowing how to warm up properly is the key, and getting 10 minutes of warm up before you start is super important.
Yeah.
For that. I think pickleball comes with similar injuries to tennis, right? Yeah. So, because it's a reaction sport, you're going to be reacting. So to train your calves, to train your quads, to train your back, and to be strong there, and you're stable in your lats and all those things posteriorly, so that when you do swing, you have that control. Certainly, but watching how you're holding your paddle is really important, because that's what's going to probably end up leading to tennis elbow or golfer's elbow, depending on which way. And so to understand how to grip, in tennis, you have a continental grip and a regular grip, and maybe probably other grips, of volley grip, I don't know. But as you're training those grips, you have to realize which way which way your wrist is moving. Because if your wrist is always cocked back, then you're going to get either golfer's or tennis elbow. But if you can maintain that neutral wrist, so that would be a grip strength, right? So to be working on your grip strength, outside of pickleball, actually probably has a really good effect on your pickleball. And if you've read Peter Attia's book Outlive, he talks about grip strength being one of those indicators, but it's not because you sat there and squeezed the ball or whatever for a while. It's because you used it, you learned how to crank on a wrench or do whatever, but just to practice and so I think pickleball is great because you are holding on to a racket, hitting a ball in different directions. My kids love pickleball. I mean, they're 9 and 11. And there were pickleball courts out by the pool. So when I would go swim, I'd send them over to play pickleball, and they'd love it. They were like, yeah, pickleball.
That's great. I have not yet tried it. Racket sports take a little more patience than what I have. So making that ball stay within the lines is a lot more patience than what I have. So I stick to running.
Running, it starts and it's finished, and then you're good. I love running too.
Is there anything, Delaine, that you think that we missed or that you wanted to add that we didn't chat about?
No, I just think that a lifetime of activity is part of a life well lived. And if we can get back to a mindset that movement is like having movement in our lives, it's what we're meant to do. We've gotten to this mindset of, well, we have everything in front of us that we need. Why would we need to move? But if we can just get back to that primal self of my core was meant to move, my body was meant to move. Very soon people find that they actually desire to move.
Right.
That if they can just get over that little bit of that lizard brain that's telling us to stop. We have fear around movement, or I know, or the backstory of, I know I'll get hurt if I do this. There's always a way to take a step into something like racket sports, right? You might not start out actually doing a racket sport. You might actually start out just by doing, some quick running, quick jogging, some changing move, some shuffling around, some cones, and then some push-ups and arm movements to get you ready to play.
Right.
That might be your first 3 or 4 weeks before you start your tennis thing. So we all can condition, and we can all move a little bit more in our day. It's just a matter of where will you find that movement in your day.
Right. Right. And in order to do that, you want to find movement that you enjoy, because then you don't want to skip it, right? When we find things that we enjoy, we don't want to miss them.
That's
right.
But
if we say, oh, I'm going to pick up tennis because my neighbor's playing tennis, but we don't really like tennis, then we're going to be like, yeah, sorry, Susie, I can't make it tomorrow. But if we go and we find those activities that we enjoy and those movements that we enjoy, and like you said, change our mindset on the way we move, instead of seeing it as, something we have to do because that's what quote unquote burns calories, or whatever. Right. When we see it as something we enjoy, and then we understand how great it makes us feel, we're less likely to miss the movement.
Right. And then we don't get hurt, and then we get to keep living our lives.
Right.
Hopefully can get off or not be on medication. Part of my mission in life is that I don't have any medical issues that cause me to be on chronic, medications for chronic disease.
Yeah.
I'm super grateful for antibiotics if I have an infection, or my kids do. That's right. A blessing and a gift. Yes. But if I can stay away from high blood pressure medications and all that, and all it takes is my little bit of commitment every day to myself.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep. Yep. And doing things, as you said, throughout our day can help without having to add extra steps, like out of the way extra steps.
Absolutely. And if you are having pain with movement, or you can't do something, that's a reason to call your trusted physical therapist.
Right.
Most physical therapists in most states are direct access, which means you do not need a referral to see them. You can just call them and make an appointment. And so I encourage everyone to put a physical therapist in there. Put them in the center of care, right? Put you in the center of care. You should have a primary care. You should have a physical therapist. You should have all those providers that take care of you in your healthcare journey. You should be at the center of that. You shouldn't wait for the doctor to say, oh, well, you should do this or you should do this. We've all been unfortunately siloed in our education training. So I'll tell you that you can ask any physician, how many days of physical therapy education did you get? And they will all say 0. They were studying to be doctors. Yep. And I went to PT school. How many days of doctoring did I get? Doctor school, 0, right? We did some pharmacological management, but that was to get my doctorate. Right. So I would say that, you don't want me prescribing medication to you, and you don't want the physician telling you need PT. Like, go to the PT, let them advise you on what you need and what you don't. There's plenty of PTs around in every city. I just search out the best one and go chat with them.
Yes. Yeah. They are definitely so important. And I know that without mine, I personally would probably still be in a lot of pain. And I am very grateful for him. He is a wonderful physical therapist, and awesome. The work he does is amazing. So yeah, physical therapists are definitely someone that everyone should have, like you said, in their circle. Yeah.
We're glad to be in so many circles in our community too. And I've been out running and literally had people stick their arms out the door and be like, hey, look at my shoulder. And like waving at me. And it's so funny. Like, I'm like, this is awesome that, they definitely couldn't lift that thing when they walked in, and now they can. So
right. Yeah. I have been known to run by my physical therapist's house and wave, look at me, I'm out here.
Look, I'm running. Every runner needs a PT. I luckily, because I'm a runner and a triathlete, they know I understand. Like, you can't just tell a runner stop running.
No, you can't.
it just makes them mad, and they're like, you don't know what you're talking about. And so for me, it's like, okay, let's see what we can do. Yep. Let's see how fast we can get you back. Let's see what that's going to take. Yeah. And people will have, they'll have really big injuries, and their doctors don't want to give them false hope. And like, I've had people who've said, like, their doctors said, you might not even ever walk again. And now they're running 50-mile, races, ultras. Yep. And so it's cool to have those stories along the way to say, like, let's set some good expectations, but also, like, let's not say, no, just stop running. I don't know why you want to do that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's important because I do think that, a lot of people do hear that.
Yeah.
A
Right.
lot of people hear that I think that's more common than not. And yet, if you just give your body some time to heal and work with a professional, a physical therapist, you'd be amazed at what your body can do. And maybe you're not as fast, or maybe you can't jump as far, or whatever it was that you were doing. Maybe you're not doing it at that same level, but that doesn't mean you're not doing it again.
That's right. That's right. And
Yeah.
pain free is the goal, and
Yep.
getting back to what you want to do is the goal, because we
Right.
all age. We all
Yes.
age, but that doesn't mean we need to hurt. And so
Yeah.
to have the PT guide you into how to get that back is so important. And I love being a PT. I'm glad I'm a physical therapist, and chose that as my profession. So
Yeah.
and always glad to meet somebody who appreciates PT.
Well, I appreciate all you do and the message that you are out there spreading. And we thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Jen.
All right. Thank you for listening to the Fit News podcast today. We will catch you next time.